I still remember the way she looked at me that afternoon. My daughter-in-law, Emma, stood in the doorway of my small kitchen with her arms crossed. Her eyes were cold, not angry, just distant, like I was a stranger she had to tolerate. "Mom," she said quietly, "my parents are coming this weekend. I think it's best if you stay in your room, or maybe visit your sister for a few days." I was holding a dish towel. My hands were still wet from washing the plates. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her, and then I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I didn't know what else to do. She didn't smile back. She just turned and walked away, her heels clicking softly on the wooden floor. That was the moment I realized something. My son's wife didn't see me as family. She saw me as a problem, an embarrassment, a poor, old woman who didn't belong in her perfect life. But what she didn't know was this. I wasn't just a naive old mother. I had lived a life before this, a life she knew nothing about. And sometimes, when people underestimate you, they give you a kind of power, a quiet power. I didn't argue with her that day. I didn't cry. I didn't pack my bags and leave in anger. Instead, I did something she never expected. I played along. And by the end of that weekend, her rich, polished parents learned something about me too, something Emma never wanted them to know. This is the story of how I became invisible in my own son's house, and how in one single weekend, I made sure Emma would regret every cold word she ever said to me. This is not a story of forgiveness. This is not a story of reunion. This is a story of revenge. Quiet, dignified revenge. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Margaret. Most people call me Maggie. I'm 63 years old. I've lived a long life, full of mistakes and blessings, heartbreak and small joys. I raised 2 children on my own after my husband passed away when they were still young. It wasn't easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering how I'd pay the rent. There were times I skipped meals so my kids could eat. But I never let them see me break. I smiled, I worked, I kept going. My husband, Thomas, died when I was 41 years old. Heart attack. Sudden. One day, he was here, kissing me goodbye in the morning. The next day, he was gone. We had been happy, not rich, but comfortable. We owned a small printing business together. Nothing fancy, just a little shop that printed flyers, business cards, wedding invitations. We made enough to live well. We had savings. We took the kids on vacation once a year. Thomas was the love of my life. When he died, a part of me died too. But I had 2 children who needed me. My daughter, Lisa, was 16. My son, Daniel, was only 12. So I kept going. I sold the printing business after Thomas died. I couldn't run it alone. I took the money and put it away for the kids' future. I got a job as a teacher's aide at the local elementary school. It didn't pay much, but it was steady. It was enough. I paid for Lisa's college. I paid for Daniel's too. I helped Lisa with her wedding. I gave them everything I could. By the time they were grown and independent, I had almost nothing left. I lived in a small rental house. I drove an old car. I wore clothes from thrift stores. I ate simple meals. But I was proud. I had raised 2 good kids. I had done my job. Daniel was my baby, my youngest. He was always sweet, thoughtful. When he was little, he used to climb into my lap and say, "Mama, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a big house." I would laugh and kiss his forehead. "I don't need a big house, sweetheart. I just need you to be happy." Daniel grew up to be a good man. He worked hard. He went to college and studied marketing. He got a good job in the city. He moved into his own apartment. He was building a life. And then he met Emma. Older women telling her story. Emma was beautiful, tall, blonde, with perfect skin and perfect teeth. She wore expensive clothes and carried designer handbags. She came from money. Her father, Richard, owned a chain of upscale restaurants. Her mother, Catherine, was active in charity circles and country clubs. When Daniel brought her to meet me for the first time, I knew immediately that I didn't fit into her world. She shook my hand politely, she smiled, but her eyes were distant. She looked around my small living room with barely hidden judgment. I saw her glance at the worn carpet, the faded curtains, the old furniture. She didn't say anything rude. She didn't have to. Her expression said it all. But Daniel was in love, and I wanted him to be happy. So I smiled, I made tea, I asked her questions about herself. I pretended not to notice the way she checked her phone every few minutes as if she couldn't wait to leave. After she left, Daniel hugged me. "She's great, isn't she, Mom?" I forced a smile. "She seems very nice." He didn't notice the hesitation in my voice. They got engaged 6 months later. The wedding was everything Emma wanted. Expensive, extravagant, held at a country club with 200 guests. I wore the best dress I owned, a simple navy blue dress I'd bought on sale years ago. I felt out of place the entire day. Emma's family and friends were all wealthy, polished, confident. They spoke about vacations in Europe and investments and things I knew nothing about. Emma's mother, Catherine, barely acknowledged me. She shook my hand once and said, "How nice to meet you," in a tone that said she already forgotten my name. Her father, Richard, was polite but dismissive. He asked me what I did for a living. When I said I was retired from working as a school aide, he nodded and changed the subject. I sat at a table in the corner during the reception. Daniel was too busy with guests to notice. Lisa came to sit with me for a while, but she had her own family to attend to. I went home that night feeling invisible. But I told myself it didn't matter. Daniel was happy. That was enough. After the wedding, things changed slowly. Daniel called me less often. He was busy, he said. Work, marriage, adjusting to life with Emma. I understood. I didn't want to be a burden. Then, one day, about 10 months after the wedding, Daniel called me. "Mom," he said, "Emma and I bought a house. It's beautiful, 3 bedrooms, big backyard, and we were thinking, would you like to move in with us?" My heart soared. I thought he still loved me, still wanted me close, still valued me. "Are you sure?" I asked. "I don't want to be in the way." "Of course I'm sure," he said. "You're my mom. Emma thinks it's a great idea too." I should have known better. I should have asked more questions. But I was lonely. I missed my son. I wanted to be part of a family again. So I said yes. I packed my life into cardboard boxes. I left the little rental house where I'd lived for 15 years. I said goodbye to my neighbors. I gave away most of my furniture. I kept only the essentials. Daniel came with the truck to help me move. Emma didn't come. She had a work thing, Daniel said. The new house was beautiful. It was in a quiet, wealthy neighborhood, the kind of place where every lawn was perfectly trimmed and every house looked like it belonged in a magazine. Inside, everything was white and gray and spotless. Emma had decorated it herself. Glass vases with fresh flowers, soft rugs, elegant furniture. My room was upstairs. It was small. A single bed, a dresser, a window that looked out onto the backyard. Emma was waiting when we arrived. She greeted me with a polite smile. "Welcome, Mom," she said. "Let me show you around." She walked me through the house like a realtor showing a property. She pointed out where things were: the kitchen, the bathrooms, the living room. "Feel free to use the kitchen," she said, "but I usually handle the cooking. Just try to keep things tidy." She showed me the bathroom I'd be using. "This is yours. Please keep it clean." Everything she said was polite, but there was a tone underneath. A tone that said, "You're a guest here. Behave accordingly." Daniel didn't seem to notice. He was busy unloading boxes. That first night, I lay in my new bed and stared at the ceiling. The room felt cold, empty. I missed my old house. I missed my independence. But I told myself to give it time. Maybe things would get better. They didn't. The first few weeks were hard. I tried to help. I cleaned the house while they were at work. I did laundry. I watered the plants. I wanted to earn my place, to show that I was useful. But Emma didn't seem to appreciate it. One day, I folded a basket of laundry and left it on her bed. When she came home, she found me in the kitchen. "Mom," she said, her voice tight, "I appreciate the help, but I have a specific way I like things done. I'll handle the laundry from now on." I nodded. "Of course. I'm sorry." Another day, I cleaned the bathroom. I scrubbed the tiles, wiped down the mirrors, organized the toiletries. That evening, Emma came upstairs and looked around. Then she came back down. "Mom, did you move my skincare products?" "Welcome, Mom," she said. "Let me show you around." She walked me through the house like a realtor showing a property. She pointed out where things were: the kitchen, the bathrooms, the living room. "Feel free to use the kitchen," she said, "but I usually handle the cooking. Just try to keep things tidy." She showed me the bathroom I'd be using. "This is yours. Please keep it clean." Everything she said was polite, but there was a tone underneath, a tone that said, "You're a guest here. Behave accordingly." Daniel didn't seem to notice. He was busy unloading boxes. That first night, I lay in my new bed and stared at the ceiling. The room felt cold, empty. I missed my old house. I missed my independence. But I told myself to give it time. Maybe things will get better. They didn't. The first few weeks were hard. I tried to help. I cleaned the house while they were at work. I did laundry. I watered the plants. I wanted to earn my place, to show that I was useful. But Emma didn't seem to appreciate it. One day, I folded a basket of laundry and left it on her bed. When she came home, she found me in the kitchen. "Mom," she said, her voice tight, "I appreciate the help, but I have a specific way I like things done. I'll handle the laundry from now on." I nodded. "Of course, I'm sorry." Another day, I cleaned the bathroom. I scrubbed the tiles, wiped down the mirrors, organized the toiletries. That evening, Emma came upstairs and looked around. Then she came back down. "Mom, did you move my skincare products?" A few weeks later, Emma made her announcement. It was a Thursday evening. Daniel and I were sitting at the dinner table. Emma was finishing up in the kitchen. She came in, wiping her hands on a towel, and sat down. "So," she said, her voice bright, I have some news. My parents are coming to visit. Daniel looked up. Oh, that's great. When? This weekend, Friday through Sunday. I felt a knot form in my stomach. Emma looked at me. Her smile was polite, but her eyes were hard. Mom, she said carefully, I think it might be best if you stayed in your room during their visit, or maybe you could go stay with Lisa for a few days. The words hit me like a slap. Daniel frowned. Emma, that's a bit much, don't you think? Emma's smile didn't waver. I just think it would be more comfortable for everyone. My parents are particular, and I want everything to be perfect. What she really meant was, I don't want them to see you. I looked at Daniel, waiting for him to defend me, to tell her that I had every right to be in the house. But he just looked uncomfortable. He glanced between Emma and me, then looked down at his plate. Mom, he said quietly, maybe it would be easier if... It's fine, I interrupted. My voice was calm, steady. I understand. Emma looked relieved. Thank you, Mom. I knew you'd understand. I smiled at her, a soft, obedient smile. But inside, I was already planning. That night, I sat in my room and thought. Emma wanted to hide me. She was ashamed of me. She saw me as an embarrassment, a poor, simple woman who didn't fit into her polished world. She wanted me to disappear. And I could have. I could have packed a bag and left for the weekend. I could have hidden away like she wanted. But I didn't want to. I wanted her to see me, really see me. I wanted her to regret every cold word, every dismissive glance, every moment she made me feel invisible. And I knew exactly how to do it. I went to my dresser and opened the bottom drawer. I reached into the back and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring. It was a sapphire ring, deep blue, surrounded by small diamonds. My husband, Thomas, had given it to me on our 20th wedding anniversary. He had saved for months to buy it. He'd presented it to me over dinner at a restaurant we couldn't really afford. He'd looked so proud, so happy. For you, Maggie, he'd said, because you deserve something beautiful. I had cried that night. After he died, I couldn't bring myself to wear it. It hurt too much, so I kept it hidden away. I'd never told the kids about it. I'd never had it appraised. It was just mine, a memory. But I knew it was valuable, very valuable. I held the ring up to the light. It sparkled. And I smiled. This weekend, Emma's parents were going to meet me, the real me. And Emma was going to wish she'd never tried to hide me. Friday arrived. The house was a flurry of activity. Emma had been up since dawn, cleaning and arranging and preparing. She'd bought fresh flowers, she'd polished the silverware, she'd planned every meal down to the garnish. She was wearing a cream-colored dress and pearls. Her hair was perfect, her makeup was flawless. She looked like she was preparing for a royal visit. I stayed in my room all morning. I could hear her downstairs, moving things around, talking to herself, stressing over details. Around 11, I heard the doorbell ring. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. Mom, Dad! Emma's voice was bright and excited. Darling! That was Catherine, her mother, smooth, elegant, refined. Emma, the house looks wonderful. That was Richard, her father, deep voice, confident. I listened as they exchanged pleasantries. I listened as Emma gave them a tour. I listened as they settled into the living room with drinks. I stayed upstairs. I was waiting. Around noon, Emma called up the stairs. "Mom, could you come down for a moment?" I took a breath. I checked my reflection in the mirror. I was wearing my usual clothes, an old cardigan, simple slacks, no makeup. My hair was in a loose bun. I looked exactly like what Emma expected, a poor, plain old woman. I went downstairs. When I entered the living room, 3 pairs of eyes turned to me. Richard was tall, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit even though it was the weekend. Catherine was slim, blonde, perfectly dressed in a silk blouse and tailored pants. They both looked at me with polite, distant smiles. "Mom," Emma said, her voice tight, "these are my parents, Richard and Catherine." I smiled softly. "It's very nice to meet you." Richard nodded. "Pleasure." Catherine's smile was thin. "Emma's told us about you." I doubted that was true. Or if it was, I doubted she'd said anything kind. Emma gestured toward the kitchen. "Mom, I was hoping you could help me bring out the appetizers." Translation: "Go back to the kitchen where you belong." I nodded. "Of course, dear." I followed her into the kitchen. She was already arranging small sandwiches on a tray. She spoke in a low, urgent whisper. "Please, just don't talk too much, okay? Just bring these out, smile, and go back upstairs." I looked at her. Her eyes were desperate, pleading. She really was ashamed of me. I picked up the tray. I understand, Emma. I carried it out to the living room and set it on the coffee table. "Thank you, Margaret," Emma said quickly, trying to dismiss me. But Catherine spoke. "Margaret, Emma mentioned you used to work at a school." I paused. Emma's face went pale. I turned and smiled warmly. "Yes, I did. For many years." Catherine nodded. "How nice. What did you teach?" Emma jumped in. "She was a teacher's aide, Mom. She helped in the classrooms." The way she said it, like it was something small, something lesser, something to be ashamed of. I kept smiling. "That's right. I helped where I was needed." Richard took a sip of his drink. "Honest work. Nothing wrong with that." But his tone said otherwise. It said, "How quaint, how simple, how beneath us." Catherine looked around the room. "Emma, darling, this house is absolutely lovely. You have such wonderful taste." Emma beamed. "Thank you, Mom. I've been working on it for months." "It shows. You've really made something beautiful here." She didn't look at me, but I felt the implication. Emma had made something beautiful, despite me, despite having to deal with me. I excused myself quietly. "I'll let you all enjoy your visit." I went back upstairs. I sat on my bed. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from rage. I spent the rest of the afternoon in my room. I could hear them downstairs, laughing, talking, the clinking of glasses, Emma's bright, false voice as she played the perfect daughter. Around 5 o'clock, I started getting ready. I showered, I washed my hair and dried it carefully. I put on makeup, not too much, just enough. Foundation, a little blush, lipstick, mascara. I looked in the mirror. I looked different already. Softer, more polished. Then I went to my closet. Hanging in the back was a dress I hadn't worn in years. It was dark green, elegant, simple but well made. I bought it 20 years ago for a special dinner with Thomas. It was from a good store, real fabric, real craftsmanship. It still fit. I put it on. I zipped it up. I looked in the mirror. I looked like someone, not a poor old woman, not an embarrassment. I looked like a woman who had lived, who had loved, who had value. Then I opened the velvet box. I took out the sapphire ring. I slid it onto my finger. It caught the light. The blue stone gleamed. The diamonds sparkled. I stared at it for a long moment. This ring represented everything Emma didn't know about me, everything she'd never bothered to ask. I took a breath and I went downstairs. Dinner was at 7. I could hear them in the dining room. Emma had set the table with her best dishes. Candles flickered, soft music played in the background. I walked slowly down the stairs. When I reached the dining room doorway, I paused. They were all seated. Emma at one end of the table, Daniel at the other, Richard and Catherine on the sides. There was an empty chair, my chair. I stepped into the room. Hanging in the back was a dress I hadn't worn in years. It was dark green, elegant, simple but well made. I bought it 20 years ago for a special dinner with Thomas. It was from a good store, real fabric, real craftsmanship. It still fit. I put it on. I zipped it up. I looked in the mirror. I looked like someone, not a poor old woman, not an embarrassment. I looked like a woman who had lived, who had loved, who had value. Then I opened the velvet box. I took out the sapphire ring. I slid it onto my finger. It caught the light. The blue stone gleamed. The diamonds sparkled. I stared at it for a long moment. This ring represented everything Emma didn't know about me, everything she'd never bothered to ask. I took a breath and I went downstairs. Dinner was at 7. I could hear them in the dining room. Emma had set the table with her best dishes. Candles flickered, soft music played in the background. I walked slowly down the stairs. When I reached the dining room doorway, I paused. They were all seated. Emma at one end of the table, Daniel at the other, Richard and Catherine on the sides. There was an empty chair, my chair. I stepped into the room. Everyone looked up. Emma's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Her eyes went wide. Daniel blinked. "Mom?" Catherine's gaze went immediately to my hand, to the ring. I smiled softly. "I'm sorry I'm late. I wanted to dress properly for such a lovely evening." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Richard cleared his throat. "Please, sit down." I took my seat. Emma was staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked confused, almost frightened. Catherine leaned forward slightly. Her eyes were still fixed on my hand. "Margaret," she said slowly, "that ring is absolutely exquisite." I glanced down at it, as if I'd forgotten I was wearing it. "Oh, this?" I said gently. "It was a gift from my late husband. He gave it to me many years ago." Richard adjusted his glasses, leaning closer. That's a genuine sapphire, isn't it? I nodded. Yes, surrounded by diamonds. Thomas was very thoughtful. Catherine's expression changed completely. She was looking at me with new eyes, not warm, but interested, respectful. That must be quite valuable, she said carefully. I smiled. I've never had it appraised. It's not about the money for me. It's about the memory. Thomas saved for months to buy it. It meant everything to him to give me something beautiful. Richard sat back. Your husband must have been quite successful. I paused. I could feel Emma's eyes boring into me, but I didn't look at her. He was, I said calmly. We owned a small printing business together. It was modest, but we did well. We were comfortable. Catherine tilted her head. A business owner. How impressive. Friday arrived. The house was a flurry of activity. Emma had been up since dawn, cleaning and arranging and preparing. She'd bought fresh flowers, she'd polished the silverware, she'd planned every meal down to the garnish. She was wearing a cream-colored dress and pearls. Her hair was perfect, her makeup was flawless. She looked like she was preparing for a royal visit. I stayed in my room all morning. I could hear her downstairs, moving things around, talking to herself, stressing over details. Around 11, I heard the doorbell ring. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. Mom! Dad! Emma's voice was bright and excited. Darling! That was Catherine, her mother, smooth, elegant, refined. Emma, the house looks wonderful. That was Richard, her father, deep voice, confident. I listened as they exchanged pleasantries. I listened as Emma gave them a tour. I listened as they settled into the living room with drinks. I stayed upstairs. I was waiting. Daniel kept looking between me and Emma, confusion and guilt written all over his face. After dinner, Catherine asked if she could speak with me privately. We stepped into the kitchen together. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she spoke. Margaret, she said quietly, I have to say, Emma didn't give us the full picture of you. I smiled gently. People see what they expect to see. She nodded slowly. Indeed, you're a remarkable woman. I wish we'd known more about you sooner. I didn't respond. I just smiled. She glanced toward the dining room where Emma was clearing plates with shaking hands. My daughter can be focused on appearances, Catherine said carefully. Sometimes she forgets what really matters. I met her eyes. Yes, she does. Catherine held my gaze. There was understanding there. She knew. She knew exactly what Emma had done. Well, she said finally, I'm very glad we had this chance to get to know you properly. So am I said. That night, after Richard and Catherine had gone to bed in the guest room, I was in my room reading when I heard voices downstairs. Raised voices. I set my book down and crept to the top of the stairs. How could you not tell me? Emma's voice was sharp, upset, almost panicked. Tell you what? Daniel sounded confused and defensive. About your mother, about the ring, the business, everything. Daniel, I've spent months treating her like she was nothing. I didn't think it mattered. Didn't think it mattered? Emma's voice cracked. Daniel, your mother owned a business. She had money. She sacrificed everything for you. And I've been treating her like she's some poor charity case. Why does it matter if she had money or not? She's my mother. You should have treated her with respect either way. Silence. Then Emma spoke again, her voice breaking. Oh my God. You're right. Daniel, you're absolutely right. What have I done? I don't know, Emma. You tell me. Because I've watched you ignore her for months. I've watched you make her feel unwelcome. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to fight. But tonight I saw how you looked at her. Like you were ashamed. I was. I was ashamed. And now I'm ashamed of myself. You should be. Emma started crying. My parents think I'm horrible. They kept asking me why I never told them about her business, her sacrifices, her story. Daniel, I look like a terrible person. I look shallow and cruel. Maybe that's because you've been acting shallow and cruel. The words hung in the air. I know, and I don't know how to fix it. I didn't wait to hear more. I went back to my room and closed the door. I sat on my bed. My hands were folded in my lap. The ring caught the lamplight. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel happy. I felt tired and satisfied. The next morning, Emma knocked on my door. I was sitting by the window with a cup of tea. Come in, I said. She opened the door slowly. Her eyes were red and swollen. She'd been crying all night. Mom, she said softly, can we talk? I gestured to the chair by the dresser. Sit. She sat. She didn't look at me at first. She twisted her hands in her lap. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I sipped my tea. I didn't say anything. I treated you terribly, she continued, her voice shaking. I made you feel unwelcome. I was ashamed of you. I tried to hide you. And that's unforgivable. I set my teacup down. Why? She looked up. What? Why were you ashamed of me? I asked calmly. She opened her mouth, closed it. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Because I was afraid. Afraid that if my parents saw you, they'd think less of me. They'd think I married beneath them, that I wasn't as successful as they wanted me to be. So you hid me? She nodded, covering her face with her hands. Yes, and I hate myself for it. I stood up and walked to the window. I looked out at the backyard. Emma, I said quietly, I gave up everything for my children. I sold my husband's business. I worked jobs I hated. I lived in a tiny house and wore old clothes so my children could have education, opportunities, good lives. I turned to face her. I never regretted it. But I will not be erased. I will not be hidden. I will not be treated like I am worthless. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me. You're right. I don't forgive you. She flinched like I'd slapped her. But, I continued, I will give you a chance. She looked up, hope flickering in her swollen eyes. You will treat me with respect, I said firmly. Not because of a ring, not because your parents approve of me, but because I am a human being, because I am your husband's mother, because I deserve dignity. She nodded quickly. Yes, yes, I will. I promise. I walked toward her. I stood in front of her chair. And if you ever make me feel invisible again, I said, my voice calm but cold as ice, I will leave this house, and you will have to explain to Daniel why his mother is gone. You will have to live with that for the rest of your life. Her face went white. Do you understand me? I asked. Yes, I understand. Good. She stood up slowly. She walked to the door. She paused and looked back at me. I really am sorry, Mom. I didn't smile. I just looked at her. Show me, I said. Don't tell me. Show me. She nodded and left. I sat back down and picked up my tea. My hands were steady. The rest of the weekend was strange. Emma tried. She really did. She invited me to join them for breakfast. She asked me questions. She smiled. She was polite. But there was a wall between us now, a wall that couldn't be torn down, because we both knew the truth. She wasn't treating me better because she respected me. She was treating me better because she was afraid of being humiliated again. Catherine and Richard were warmer to me. Catherine asked me to join her for coffee on Saturday afternoon. We sat in the garden and talked. She asked me about Thomas, about my life, about raising children alone. She was kind, but I could see the pity in her eyes, and I didn't want pity. Richard shook my hand before they left on Sunday. It was a pleasure getting to know you, Margaret, he said. You're a strong woman. Thank you, I said. Catherine hugged me. Please stay in touch, she said. But I knew I wouldn't. After they left, the house was quiet. Emma disappeared into her room. Daniel found me in the kitchen. Mom, he said quietly. I'm sorry. I should have defended you. I should have said something months ago. I looked at him. My sweet boy, my son. Yes, I said, you should have. He flinched. But you didn't, I continued. You chose her, and that's your right. But Daniel, you need to understand something. He waited. I will not live like a ghost in this house. I will not tiptoe around. I will not shrink myself to make her comfortable. If that's what she needs, then I can't stay here. His eyes filled with tears. Please don't leave, Mom. I touched his cheek. Then make sure she understands. I am your mother. I deserve respect, not because of a ring, not because of money, but because I am your mother. He nodded. I will, I promise. But I knew it wouldn't be enough. Over the next few weeks, things were different. Emma tried. She was polite. She included me in dinners. She asked about my day. But it was forced, uncomfortable. And I realized something. I didn't want to live like this. I didn't want forced politeness. I didn't want fake smiles. I didn't want to live in a house where I was tolerated instead of loved. One evening, I sat Daniel down. Son, I said, I've been thinking. I'm going to find my own place again. His face fell. Mom, no, you don't have to leave. Things are better now. Emma's trying. I know she's trying, I said gently. But Daniel, I don't want someone to try to tolerate me. I want to live somewhere I'm wanted, somewhere I'm welcome. You are welcome here. I shook my head. No, I'm not. Not really. Emma doesn't want me here. She's just afraid of upsetting you. And I don't want to live like that. He started crying. Mom, please, I love you. I want you here. I took his hands. I love you too. But I need my own space, my own life. I can't live in someone else's shadow. It took another month, but I found a small apartment across town. It was on the second floor of an older building, one bedroom, a small kitchen, a cozy living room with big windows. It was perfect. Daniel helped me move. Emma didn't come. She said she wasn't feeling well. I didn't mind. It's been a year since I left Daniel and Emma's house. A full year of living on my own terms again. A year of peace, of quiet mornings and evenings spent however I choose. My little apartment became my sanctuary. I decorated it slowly. I bought a soft blue couch from a secondhand store. I hung curtains in a warm cream color. I filled the windowsills with plants. I put up photos of my children when they were young, photos of Thomas and me on our wedding day. I made it mine. Daniel visits every week. Every Sunday afternoon, he comes by with coffee and pastries. We sit at my small kitchen table and talk. He tells me about work, about his life, about the things he's been doing. He never mentions Emma unless I ask, and I rarely ask. Sometimes I see the guilt in his eyes, the sadness. He knows what happened. He knows his wife pushed me out, and he knows he didn't stop it. But I don't punish him for it. He's still my son. I still love him. Emma sends me text messages on holidays. Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. Merry Christmas, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. Always polite, always brief, always distant. I reply, but I keep it short. Thank you, Emma. You too. Nothing more. I haven't been back to their house since I moved out. Daniel has invited me several times, for dinner, for birthdays, for holidays. I always decline. I'm tired that day, I say. Or, I have plans with Lisa. He doesn't push. He understands. About 6 months after I moved out, Emma started trying harder. She sent me a long text message one evening. Mom, I know I hurt you. I know I can't take back what I did, but I want you to know that I think about it every day. I regret how I treated you. I was wrong. I was cruel. And I'm sorry. Please, if you're willing, I'd like to try to make things right. I read the message 3 times. Then I set my phone down and didn't reply. Two days later, she sent another message. I understand if you don't want to talk to me. I just wanted you to know that you were right about everything. My parents haven't looked at me the same since that weekend. They ask about you all the time. They think I'm a terrible person. And maybe I am. I still didn't reply. They were beautiful. White roses, expensive. The card said, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Emma. I put the flowers in a vase. I looked at them for a day. Then I threw them away. I didn't want her apologies. I didn't want her guilt. I didn't want her flowers. What I wanted was something she could never give me back. Respect, dignity, time. She had stolen those things from me. She had made me feel small in my own son's house. She had tried to erase me. And no amount of sorry could undo that. 3 months ago, my phone rang late one evening. It was Emma. I stared at the screen for a long moment. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Mom? Her voice was shaking. I'm sorry to call so late. I needed to talk to you. I didn't say anything. I saw my parents today. We had lunch, and my mother, she spent the entire time asking about you. She wanted to know how you were doing, if you were okay, if you needed anything. I stayed silent. And then she said something that I can't stop thinking about. Emma's voice cracked. She said, Emma, you had a treasure in your house, and you treated her like trash. That woman sacrificed everything for her children, and you made her feel worthless. I don't know if I raised you to be so cold.
She was right, Mom. She was absolutely right. You were a treasure. And I was so blind. I was so stupid. I was so focused on what people would think that I forgot to see what was right in front of me. I took a slow breath. Emma, I said quietly, why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know that I understand now. I understand what I did. I understand what I lost. And what did you lose? I asked. She was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. I lost the chance to know you, really know you. I lost the chance to learn from you, to hear your stories, to be part of your life. I threw it all away because I was embarrassed, and now it's too late. Yes, I said simply, it is too late. She sobbed. I know it is, and I have to live with that. I wanted you to know that I regret it. Every single day I regret it. I closed my eyes. I felt the weight of her words, the pain in her voice. But I also felt the year of peace I'd had without her. The year of living without walking on eggshells, without feeling judged, without feeling invisible. Emma, I said gently, I appreciate you calling, I do. But your regret doesn't change anything. It doesn't undo the hurt. It doesn't give me back the months I spent in your house feeling unwanted. I know. And I don't know if I can ever forgive you. I understand. We sat in silence for a moment. I hope you learn from this. I hope you never treat anyone else the way you treated me. But Emma, I need you to understand something. I don't need your apology to move on. I've already moved on. I know. I can see that. And I'm glad you're happy. I really am. I hung up. I set the phone down and stared at the wall. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I just felt done. Word travels fast in wealthy social circles. I learned this from my daughter, Lisa, who heard it from a friend who knew Emma's family. Apparently, after that weekend when I wore the ring, Catherine had told several of her friends about me, about the remarkable woman her daughter had been hiding, about the business owner who had sacrificed everything for her children. And those friends told other friends, and soon Emma's entire social circle knew the truth. They knew she had treated her mother-in-law poorly. They knew she had been ashamed of me. They knew she had tried to hide me away. And in those circles, where appearances and reputation matter more than anything, Emma became known as the woman who mistreated her family. Invitations to parties slowed down, friendships became strained, people whispered. Lisa told me all of this over coffee one afternoon. Mom, she said carefully, do you know what's happening with Emma? No, I said, and I don't particularly care.
Lisa hesitated. People are talking about her, about how she treated you. Catherine apparently told everyone, and now Emma is, well, she's becoming a bit of a social pariah. I sipped my coffee. That's unfortunate. Lisa looked at me. You don't feel bad? I thought about it. I really did. Did I feel bad that Emma was facing consequences for her actions? No. No, I didn't. She made choices, I said finally. She chose to treat me like I was worthless. She chose to hide me. She chose to make me feel small. These are the consequences of those choices. Lisa nodded slowly. You're right. I guess I thought you might feel some sympathy. I smiled. I'm not cruel, Lisa. I don't take pleasure in her suffering, but I also don't feel responsible for it. She did this to herself. 2 months ago, Catherine came to visit me. She called first, asking if she could stop by. I was surprised, but I agreed. She arrived on a Saturday afternoon, carrying a box of expensive chocolates and a bouquet of flowers. I made tea. We sat in my small living room. Margaret, she said, I wanted to come see you, to check on you, and to apologize. I raised an eyebrow. Apologize for what? For not seeing you sooner, for not making more of an effort to get to know you before that weekend. I was so caught up in my own life, my own circles, that I didn't stop to think about who you really were. I nodded. I appreciate that. She looked around my apartment. This is lovely. You've made it very warm. Thank you. She set her teacup down. I need to tell you something. Emma is struggling. She's been struggling a lot since you left. I didn't respond. She's lost friends, Catherine continued. Her reputation has taken a hit. People talk, and she knows it's her own fault. It is her fault, I said calmly. Older women telling her story. Catherine nodded. Yes, it is. And I think that's the hardest part for her. She can't blame anyone else. She has to face what she did. Good, I said. Maybe she'll learn something. Catherine looked at me for a long moment. You're not going to forgive her, are you? I thought about it. I really did. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, but not now. Not anytime soon. Catherine nodded. I understand, and I don't blame you. She stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. For what it's worth, she said, I'm glad you stood up for yourself. I'm glad you showed us who you really are. You're a remarkable woman, Margaret, and Emma was a fool not to see it. Yes, I said. She was. Daniel has been caught in the middle. I see it every time he visits. The tension, the guilt, the sadness. One Sunday, he finally broke down. Mom, he said, his voice shaking, I don't know what to do. Emma is miserable. She cries all the time. She's lost so many friends. Her mother barely talks to her, and I know it's her fault, but she's my wife. I love her. I looked at him, my son, my sweet, kind son who had always tried to make everyone happy. Daniel, I said gently, I'm not asking you to choose between us, but that's what it feels like. You won't come to the house. You barely talk to her. And I understand why, but I miss you, Mom. I miss having you in my life, really in my life. I reached across the table and took his hand.
I have you in my life. I'm right here. I see you every week. But it's not the same. We can't all be together. We can't be a family." I squeezed his hand. "Daniel, Emma destroyed that possibility. Not me. I tried. I tried so hard to be part of your family, and she made it clear I wasn't welcome." He started crying. I know she did, and I should have stopped her. I should have stood up for you." "Yes," I said, "you should have." He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "Can you ever forgive me?" I thought about it. I looked at my son, this man I had raised, this man I had sacrificed everything for. "I already have," I said softly. "You're my son. I love you. But Daniel, I can't forgive Emma. Not yet. Maybe not ever." He nodded. "I understand. And you need to accept that," I continued. "You need to accept that your wife's actions have consequences, that I have the right to protect myself, that I have the right to live a life where I feel valued." "I do accept it," he whispered. "I just wish things were different." "So do I," said. "So do I." I still wear the ring sometimes. Not often, just on special occasions, when I'm feeling nostalgic, when I want to remember Thomas. When I look at it, I think about that weekend. The weekend I wore it to dinner. The weekend everything changed. Some people might say I was petty, that I was vengeful, that I should have been the bigger person and forgiven Emma. But I don't see it that way. I see it as justice. Emma wanted to hide me. She wanted to pretend I didn't exist. She wanted to erase me from her perfect life. And I showed her that I couldn't be erased. I showed her that I had value, that I had history, that I had lived a full life before I ever became a burden in her house. And I showed her that actions have consequences. She can apologize all she wants. She can cry, she can regret, she can send flowers and text messages and make phone calls, but none of it changes what she did. None of it gives me back the months I spent feeling small and invisible and unwanted. She stole that from me, and now she has to live with what she's lost. I'm happy now, truly happy. I wake up every morning in my own space. I make my own coffee. I sit by my window and watch the sunrise. I visit with friends. I read books. I take walks in the park. I have lunch with Lisa and her family. I live my life on my own terms. And I don't feel guilty about it. Some people might think I should try harder, that I should forgive Emma, that I should go back and try to rebuild the relationship. But why? Why should I give her another chance when she never gave me a first one? Why should I make myself uncomfortable to make her feel better? I spent too many years making myself small for other people, sacrificing my own needs and wants so my children could thrive. And I don't regret that. I did it out of love. But I'm done now. I'm done shrinking. I'm done apologizing for existing. I'm done letting people treat me like I don't matter. Emma learned a hard lesson that weekend. She learned that you can't judge people by their appearance,
that you can't assume someone's worth based on their clothes or their job or their bank account. She learned that respect should be given freely, not earned through displays of wealth. And most importantly, she learned that when you treat people like they're invisible, sometimes they disappear, and they don't come back. Last week, Daniel came to visit. He looked tired, sad. "Mom," he said, "Emma asked me to give you this." He handed me an envelope. I opened it. Inside was a letter. Handwritten, several pages long. I read it slowly. Emma poured her heart out. She wrote about her regrets, her shame, her understanding of what she'd done wrong. She wrote about how she'd changed, how she was trying to be better. She wrote, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I hurt you in ways I can never undo, but I want you to know that I see you now, really see you. And I'm so sorry it took me so long." At the end, she wrote, "I hope someday you can find it in your heart to give me another chance. But if you can't, I understand. And I'll spend the rest of my life regretting what I lost." I folded the letter carefully. I put it back in the envelope. Daniel watched me. "What are you going to do?" I smiled. "Nothing." "Nothing?"
"How long?" he asked. I shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe years. Maybe never. We'll see." He stood to leave. He hugged me tight. "I love you, Mom. I love you too." After he left, I sat by the window with a cup of tea. I looked at the ring on my finger, catching the afternoon light. I thought about Thomas, about the life we'd built together, about the love we'd shared. I thought about my children, about the sacrifices I'd made, about the pride I felt watching them grow. And I thought about Emma, about the weekend I wore this ring, about the look on her face when she realized who I really was. I smiled, not because I was cruel, not because I enjoyed her suffering, but because I had finally, after years of shrinking and giving and sacrificing, stood up for myself. I had shown the world that I was not invisible. I was not nothing. I was Margaret, a woman who had loved deeply, who had lost greatly, who had sacrificed endlessly, a woman who deserved respect, and I would never let anyone make me forget that again. Emma's regret was hers to carry, not mine. I had carried enough for one lifetime. Now, I was free, and I was never going back.